This wasn't abandonment. This was a heartbreaking truth. In a quiet, forgotten corner of rural Tennessee, where the back roads twist through pine forests and the nearest Walmart is 40 minutes away, there lived an old man named Ray Burnett, 78 years old, widowed for 12 years. Lungs shot from 50 years of smoking unfiltered Camels, and now walking with a limp after his second hip replacement. His only companion left in the world was a 13-year-old chocolate Labrador named Sadie. Sadie wasn't just a dog to Ray. She was the last living piece of his wife, Marlena. When Marlene got sick with cancer back in 2011, Sadie never left her bedside. She'd rest her big head on the hospital bed at home, letting Marlene run her fingers through that soft brown fur until the very end. After the funeral, Ray sat on the porch every night with a bottle of Jack and Sadie curled up at his feet, both of them missing the same woman in their own silent way. But time is cruel. Ray's body was failing faster than he wanted to admit. The stairs in his double-wide trailer became a daily battle. Feeding himself was hard enough. Feeding a 75-pound dog who could barely stand up on her own because of arthritis was damn near impossible. The vet bills were piling up, and Social Security only stretched so far. His kids, 2 sons in Nashville and Atlanta, had stopped answering his calls months ago. One cold November morning in 2025, Ray made the hardest decision of his life. He told himself it was mercy. Sadie was suffering. She whined when she tried to get up. Her eyes were cloudy with cataracts. She'd started having accidents in the house because she couldn't make it outside fast enough. Ray convinced himself that putting her down was the right thing. But when he called the vet, the price they quoted made his stomach drop, almost $800 he didn't have. He hung up the phone and just sat there, staring at Sadie sleeping on her old bed by the wood stove. That afternoon he made a different plan, a plan that would haunt him forever. He loaded Sadie into the passenger seat of his rusted 2001 Ford F-150. She struggled to climb in, her back legs shaking, but she trusted him like she always had. Ray drove 20 miles down forgotten dirt roads until he found a secluded pull-off near an old, abandoned hunting cabin deep in the Cherokee National Forest. No houses, no cell service, just trees, silence, and the faint sound of a creek somewhere below. He opened the door and coaxed Sadie out. She stood there on trembling legs, looking up at him with those milky eyes, tail giving one weak wag because she still believed in him. Ray pulled an old blanket from the truck bed, laid it under a pine tree, and spread out a bowl of water and the last can of wet food he had. Then he took off her collar, the one Marlene had bought her the Christmas before she died, and slipped it into his pocket. "I'm sorry, girl," he whispered, voice cracking. "I ain't got nothing left to give you." He got back in the truck, hands shaking so bad he could barely turn the key. In the rearview mirror, he saw Sadie try to follow him. She took 3 painful steps, then collapsed onto her side in the leaves, whimpering. Ray punched the steering wheel so hard his knuckles bled. He screamed a sound that wasn't even human, then floored it down the dirt road, dust flying behind him like he could outrun what he'd just done. But someone was watching. 25 minutes earlier, a woman named Kayla Reynolds, a 34-year-old nurse from Turtletown, had been hiking an off-trail loop with her phone in airplane mode. She'd come out here to clear her head after a brutal week in the ER. She saw the old Ford pull in, saw the old man help a clearly ancient lab out of the truck. At first, she thought he was just letting his dog stretch. Then she watched him lay out the blanket and food and take the collar. Kayla's heart stopped. She knew exactly what was happening. She'd seen it before. Old people who couldn't afford care, who thought abandoning their pets in the woods was kinder than a shelter or euthanasia they couldn't pay for. She crouched behind a fallen log, phone useless out here, and watched the man drive away while the dog tried to follow and fell. The second the truck was out of sight, Kayla ran. She dropped to her knees beside Sadie, who was panting hard, confused and scared. "Hey, sweet girl, hey, baby." "It's okay," Kayla said, voice shaking as she ran her hands over Sadie's frail body. The dog's ribs showed through her fur. Her paws were cracked and bleeding from trying to walk on them. But when Kayla touched her, Sadie licked her hand weakly, like she still had hope left in the world. Kayla wrapped Sadie in her own jacket, picked her up. God, she was so light, and carried her a mile and a half back to her Jeep. Crying the whole way, Sadie's head rested on her shoulder like a child. Back in town, Kayla took Sadie straight to her vet. X-rays showed severe arthritis, kidney disease, and heart murmurs, but nothing that couldn't be managed with medication and love. The vet knew Sadie, knew she belonged to Ray Burnett. Everyone in town did, but Kayla didn't call Ray, not yet. Instead, she took Sadie home. For 3 weeks, Kayla nursed Sadie back to health. Pain meds, joint supplements, a heated orthopedic bed, homemade food. Slowly, Sadie started walking again. Her tail wagged when Kayla came home from work. She'd follow her from room to room, never letting her out of sight. Then one day, Kayla drove to Ray's trailer. Ray answered the door looking like a ghost of himself. Unshaven, eyes red, smelling like whiskey and regret. When he saw Kayla standing there holding Sadie's old collar, he crumpled, literally fell to his knees on the porch. "She's alive," Kayla said softly. "She's waiting in my car." Ray couldn't even speak. He just sobbed. Ugly, broken sobs that came from somewhere deeper than his chest. Kayla helped him to her Jeep, and when Sadie saw him, she let out the happiest bark Ray had heard in years. She scrambled out and practically threw herself at him, covering his face in kisses while he held her like he was drowning, and she was the only thing keeping him afloat. Kayla didn't yell. She didn't shame him. She just said, "She missed you." Every single day, Ray moved into Kayla's spare bedroom that same week. He sold his trailer, used the money to pay for Sadie's meds for the rest of her life, and spent every day making it up to her. Some nights, Kayla would find him asleep in the recliner with Sadie curled up on his lap, his hand never leaving her fur. Sadie lived another 14 months, happy, spoiled, and loved beyond measure. When she passed peacefully in her sleep one spring morning, Ray was holding her, whispering thank you over and over again. And Kayla? She kept Ray. He became the grandfather she never had. They buried Sadie under a dogwood tree in the backyard, right next to the spot where they'd planted Marlene's favorite roses years later when Ray finally told Kayla the full story. Sometimes mercy isn't what we think it is. Sometimes it looks like a stranger carrying your heart through the woods, because she refused to let it die alone. Ray never forgave himself. But because someone was watching, Sadie did.